Okay, here we go. New video. Dennis Kelly's DNA. Today we are looking at how does Kelly present Leah as a morally good character in DNA. So you need to talk about what Leah says and does in the play, how Kelly presents Leah in the play. It's 30 marks and 4 marks of that is your spelling, punctuation and grammar. Okay? Now, I have turned my camera the other way around, so hopefully that's more helpful for people. And you will recognise this is the question that you did in your mock. So I'm going through it just so you can get an idea of what it was we're expecting from you before you go through it in your classes when we get back after Easter. So, where am I going to start? So I look at this. I'm going to take my highlighters first of all. Hang about. So, what's this question asking me? How does Kelly present Leah as a morally good character in DNA? So I'm going to highlight, because it's talking about the author, so I must remember to talk about the author. I'm going to highlight Leah, so I know which characters I'm supposed to be doing. Tear a bit of highlight in there. And I'm going to highlight that word morally good. The phrase morally good. My highlighting's skew with, isn't it? Because I need to make sure I tell people about how Dennis Kelly shows that Leah is or is not a morally good character in DNA. So I'm going to say, I personally think she is a morally good character. So what I'm going to do, the first thing I'm going to do is make my statement. Leave my highlighter. Because when I make my statement, that means everything else I say will link back to it. So I'm going to write here, Leah is a morally good person. Okay? Now, being morally good means that you do things for the right reasons and you try and do the best you possibly can. Okay? Every time I stop talking, Fenton stops playing with his water bottle. He's having a right go today. Okay. So, Leah is a morally good person. I'm now going to think to myself, so the question asked me what Leah says and does in the play, how Kelly presents Leah in the play. So first thing I'm going to do, I've done my revision. I'm trying to think of times when I remember that Leah is a morally good person in the play. So I might think about the fact that she doesn't like how they treat Brian at the end. So when they're practicing killing Adam on Brian, when Leah realises what's happening, she doesn't like it. So Leah doesn't like the idea of killing Adam. So Leah also, she leaves Phil because, and why? So a few different reasons I think. I think she realises he doesn't really care. Oops, he doesn't, a bit closer, doesn't care. Did I write that here yet? I think she sees the evil the group has created in, I think really, in Kathy especially. And they're almost two opposites, aren't they, Leah and Kathy? They both go totally different ways. So I could bring Kathy into it as well. I'm just getting my ideas out at the moment. That's all I need to do. So I could say, compare to Kathy, because Kathy's an absolute head case. There we are. Then I'm thinking about how Kelly presents Leah. So what does Dennis Kelly do that makes Leah seem like a morally good person? So this, already up here, the idea of killing Adam, that's morally good. I think as well, the fact that she has such big paragraphs of speech, I think that shows she's quite a good person. She doesn't seem like she hides a lot. She's very open with her feelings and emotions. So I'm going to write in, oh, paper's falling everywhere over here. Big paragraphs of speech doesn't seem to hold anything in. Okay, so that's what I'm going to think about. Big paragraph speech doesn't need to hold anything in. However, potentially, I'm only going to write potentially. Potentially, yeah, that's fine. Not a good person. Now, why is she not a good person? Interesting question. There's something that she does, a few things that she does that I think kind of highlight that maybe she's not quite as good as she thinks that she is. So one of them, really clear one, is that she kills her own pet to try and get attention. So murders pet. Okay. And the other thing is that she is still part of that gang. Oops, turn that page down. Is still part of the gang. Where are we? Here we go. Responsible for bullying. I'm going to say bullying Adam. I'm going to underline that because it's awful. Bullying Adam to death. And behaving similarly with Brian. It's not even like she really learned her lesson till towards the end, I think. I think it takes her a long time. So I've got a few different ideas there. Now what I need to do is I need to remember that man who I've told you guys about before. Look, Fenton's just here. He likes to guard when I'm talking. He just sit down there the whole time. Hello. Hello. Anyway. So it's part of the gang responsible for bullying Adam's death and behaving similarly with Brian. So there's that man I told you to think about. And that man's name is Peter, and we must use him in order to write the best paragraphs we can. Okay, so I start with my point. And really clearly, my point's always going to be one way. And then I'd say, obviously, morally good. And I'm just putting notes down here. This is not how I'd write it fully, obviously. Is... And it could be the long paragraphs, okay, uses da 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 da. Okay, point, and then your evidence. Now, if you can remember a quote, absolutely banging, absolutely smashing. But when it's a long paragraph, you're not going to be writing out a big long paragraph because that would be absolutely mental. What you would do is just discuss certain scenes where she goes on big rants. So you'd pick your rant. So describe rant. Okay, and you can pick whichever one you wanted. And then your technique. Oh, that's a G. Technique would be extended. Let's do it again, look. Because knows it's treats from that cupboard. Extended paragraph. You might be able to remember the way some repetition and some punctuation is used. If you can, that'd be amazing. Oh. So essentially, when Leah does her punctuation, she stumbles, she has lots of commas, lots of ellipsis, lots of pauses because she doesn't know quite how to say things to make it so that Phil will love her, basically. So I've got my pet. Now I need my ER. So we're thinking about the effect on the reader. So really, I think probably pity. Know a lot about her. And then obviously develop that again. And then your last one is refer to context. Okay. So what does that mean? That's a difficult one for Dennis Kelly, but what you can talk about is this idea of shared responsibility. So you could discuss the fact that even though she seems morally good and she paints the right picture of herself, actually she's still part of that same group. So Dennis Kelly, Kelly highlights, I can't say it and write it, the influence teenagers can have on each other, because she's naturally quite a nice girl, and actually she is kind of ruined by hanging around people like Kathy who, and Phil really, who maybe aren't quite as good as she is, quite as nice as she is. Okay, so I do that, that's my Peter, and then I do that maybe 3 more times. And then when I've done that one, oh, there we are, I might then put in one where she is not morally good, just to show balance, just to give a bit of balance to it. Okay, so essentially you need to make sure that you talk about across the text, you use some quotes if you can, you explain the writer's methods and think about how they affect the reader. Okay, you know this story so well. As I said to you before, as long as you write something, something's better than nothing, because we can find points when there's writing on the paper. We can't find marks in a blank page. Okay, you're more than capable of doing this, all of you. This is how you're going to get up there, your level 4s, your level 5s potentially. Okay, that's what we want. Trim out.